Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker podcast. I'm joined, as always, for our post-game reflections show with former NC State defensive end and current Canadian football leaguer, Mike Rose. So we thank Mike for joining us again. We're going to talk about NC State's 38-22 victory over Florida State Saturday night in Carter Finley Stadium to advance to 5-3 on the year in 2020. But before we get too far into this episode, I want to talk about the special deal that we have going on at the Wolfpacker.com. Right now, if you go over to the Wolfpacker.com for new subscribers only, you can get an annual membership, 1 year of premium content, news and analysis of everything NC State athletics on the Wolfpacker.com for just $75. And we're giving you a $75 digital gift code to Adidas.com. So you can get $75 worth of Adidas gear, plus you get your membership basically for free. So with the holidays coming up, obviously there's going to be some gift giving occasions in your near future. So you may as well take advantage of this special deal we got going on at the Wolfpacker.com. Check us out. If you go to the Wolfpacker.com, any store you have will have a push button where you can activate that code for the $75 1 year of premium membership. And then you get the $75 digital gift code for Adidas gear. So you can get NC State gear. You can check out one of those cool Blood Moon jerseys that NC State was wearing last night. I know they had them on the website, but they were low on quantity. So you might want to hurry up and take advantage of that deal now if you want that Blood Moon jersey. But anyways, head to the wolfpacker.com, take advantage of that deal. It's a really good one, so I highly recommend it. But Mike, now we're ready to talk football. It was NC State's been playing a lot of night games this year, and another one coming up next week. So another late night last night, but a good one for NC State. And actually, I think the Wolfpack wrapped it up early there. It was pretty much a ball game there late in the third quarter. NC State ends its 2-game losing streak. They lost to Carolina, obviously big in Chapel Hill before the bye week, and then lost a heartbreaker to Miami. And Florida State was exactly what the doctor ordered for these Wolfpack, because, Florida State's just in a situation right now where they're playing a lot of young guys. Mike Norvell, first-year head coach down there in Tallahassee, he's got his work cut out for him. Entering the contest, there was obviously a bunch of headlines about some major Florida State players. I know their star future NFL defensive tackle Marvin Wilson, he's out for the season with an injury. Tamorrion Terry, their best wide receiver, he's left the program. And then, of course, the anticipated mobile quarterback Jordan Travis, who was Florida State's starter for the past 5 games, he wasn't able to make the trip due to injury. So Florida State was very low on personnel, but that does not matter for NC State because they got a much needed big win, comfortable win, 38-22. And I think we need to start with the offensive performance because I think that was really the main positive from last night. Bailey Hockman with a consecutive career night. He played great against Miami against Friday, and then has another great career-breaking night last night. 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, both career highs for him. And then, of course, Thayer Thomas with a big game, 11 receptions for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns, career highs for him across the board. So, Mike, just your thoughts on how smooth that offense was running at times last night, and just how impressed you were with Hockman and Thayer Thomas's performance.
I was very impressed. It's good to see Thayer Thomas getting his shine. He's kind of been like a big play, flashy guy, and he hasn't really gotten the ball as much as you'd like. But I think this game they really, dialed it up for him, and he looked good. He did what he needed to do. I thought his punt return was decent. I think the kid's he's a good kid and he's working. It's hard when you're not getting. I'm not gonna say receivers are divas, but it's hard when you're not getting the ball to stay, still block and to still stay focused and to still want to be the guy. So it's good to see that even with the shine of a Mezzi and Angeline and those guys, that he's still working hard and he got his opportunity and made the most of it.
Well, it's funny you say wide receivers are divas. Obviously, that's the reputation. But if there's one receiver on NC State's team that is like the opposite of a diva, it's redshirt junior Thayer Thomas, who has already graduated. I mean, he talked to the press after the game last night, and he's just a team player. As you mentioned, he didn't necessarily, his performances didn't show up in the stat sheet so far in 2020. But he's made really big plays. He's been a good blocker in the run game. And, all he's concerned about is doing what it takes for this NC State team to win. So going into last night, Thayer Thomas had 16 receptions, 214 yards, and 1 touchdown through 7 games. So he wasn't really getting as much love as maybe we had predicted going into the season. Of course, some of that is due to Emeka Emezi's solid performance this year. He's really broken out and had a solid year. And of course, when you got a guy like Kerry Angeline, that also attracts some attention as well.
Mhm.
But Thayer Thomas, I mean, basically exceeds 50% of his total output in terms of stat production last night compared to the first 7 games. And it's nice to see him and Hockman get that connection going. After the game, Hockman talked about how he approached Thayer Thomas after practice one day this week leading up to the Florida State game and noticed that he only had 1 reception in the Miami game despite Hockman's great night. And he made an effort to say, look, Thayer, we want to get you the ball more. We need to get you the ball more. So I'm going to be looking for you. You be ready. And guess what? Florida State gave the middle of the field to NC State consistently, at least throughout the first half. And it was good to see Mr. Thomas have a big night. Well deserved for him. But, he wasn't the only guy that was getting it done in the receiving game. Emeka Emezi, another solid night, 4 receptions, 50 yards, including 1 touchdown. And he has – compared to 2019 when it was kind of his first season as wide receiver one on this group, he's really come out of his shell and has a lot to be confident about entering this final stretch here, the last 3 games. And then, of course, you and I's favorite, if we will, in the receiving game. How can you not like Mr. Kerry Angeline, the 6'7" tight end? He was efficient yet again last night. 2 receptions, both 20-yard completions for a total of 40 yards, and he caught
Get him
2
the
of his 3
ball.
targets. So yeah, I mean, that was a big question for NC State entering the season was, not only was the quarterback play disappointing in 2019, but part of it was the receivers didn't really step up and help out matters in the quarterback play. Now you're seeing better output from the quarterback position, but you're also seeing a lot of improvement from this wide receiver core and the pass catchers. And, you got to credit their effort, and you got to credit offensive coordinator Tim Beck for putting them in the right position and making the right play calls. So Mike, just how different is this offense this year compared to what we've seen last year? It just seems like night and day.
I mean, the OC is playing to their strengths. He's not necessarily just putting a scheme out there, because the scheme for Leary and the scheme for Finley is different than the scheme for Hockman. So Hockman he's a more mobile quarterback. I mean, Finley is a little bit too, but he's more mobile, and he's a little inaccurate, and he needs to stay in that realm. And I like what they're doing with him. They're getting him the ball in space. They're putting him on the run to throw the ball. I think that's what suits him best. And I think that as long as you keep a quarterback confident, I think that the sky's the limit for the kid as long as he stays confident. And the fact that his receivers it's starting to look like the receivers and the O-line, they're really selling out for the kid. Like they were doing for Leary, in my opinion. So I think now there's a bigger belief that, all right, Bailey Hawk can get the job done, so let's give him some confidence and let's hope that he can push forward.
There definitely seems to be buy-in. That was kind of the big question facing NC State after the bye week. How are you going to handle getting your butt kicked in Chapel Hill against your arch rival? I mean, that was really a manhandling of a game similar to what we saw in game 2 against Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. And both times NC State has responded really well. They didn't get the win against Miami, but that was, in my opinion, probably the best performance that they put together all season, aside from the defense. It wasn't the best defensive performance, but on offense and special teams, I really liked NC State's effort. And this game, it finally came together. The defense wasn't necessarily as challenged as it was against Miami. Florida State did not have any De'Aaron King in them, and they had to start a freshman quarterback, and the backup was also a freshman. So it was a rough situation for them. They were going through some growing pains. Before we move on from the offense, important point. I know Emeka Emezi left the game late with a minor injury. He was on the field for a little bit, but he was able to walk off on his own strength. And I believe the same with Joe Sculthorpe. He went out of the game early in the first half, went to the locker room, but later returned. And when asked about both of them after the game, Coach Dave Doran said that they are both okay. So we will get more on them next week, but seems, at least from an early stage, that they're going to be okay moving forward. Um, and we also got to talk about the run game, which was better than it was. Again, it took another step, but there's something about this run game where it's like,
Depending
you know,
who it was, it honestly is depending who it is. Like I think right now, I know it sounds odd, but right now this O line is feeling Bam Knight's style of play.
mm-hmm.
I think that Bam Knight's style of play fits this O line, and I think they're riding with his style of running right now. Houston's a different type of runner, and Person's a different type of runner. I think that right now, Bam Knight, you don't want to say running back 1 or 2, but right now, Bam Knight's the guy that's getting it done, and I feel like you got to go with the hot hand.
I agree with you there. I mean, I haven't held back in saying that I've been a Bam Knight guy since
I give
game
you that.
one,
You said that he was
and
your guy.
to me, he just looks quicker. He's got that acceleration to be able to burst through, whatever the gaps are created on the offensive line. He just seems to have an ability to take more advantage of the opportunities that are presented to him. And that's no discount to Ricky Person. Ricky Person is a solid, starting ACC running back. I just feel that, Bam Knight is a top tier. I mean, he's an all ACC caliber back from what I see.
He could be if
And
he finishes out strong.
yeah, I mean, when he gets the carries, he produces the numbers to reflect that. Last night, Florida State's not a good run defense. They were allowing about 200 yards per game to opponents leading up to this contest, and NC State only had a total of 148 rushing yards. So it wasn't, a jaw-dropping performance, and a lot of that was due to the first half. Florida State came out and did a good job of stopping NC State's run in the first half. I think at that point at halftime, NC State was averaging about 2 yards a carry, so weren't getting much going. I know there wasn't one runner with more than 20 yards. I think Bam had about 19 and Ricky had 16 and Hockman had 10 with that touchdown. But, Knight took advantage of the second half. He had that big run there that could have been longer had it not been for a face mask call. He finishes the night with 94 yards on 17 carries for 5.5 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. Of course, Ricky Person also got involved. He was the second leading rusher last night in terms of attempts. He had 10 attempts for 18 yards. Couldn't really get it going. And Jordan Houston, shout out to him, 2 runs for 23 yards. So good little average for him. I know he had that nice run there in the fourth quarter on the first down. But yeah, I mean, I think you just got to keep there. It seems to be a nice balance right now. You'd think based on the first 2 games with Hockman, it seemed like, okay, when Hockman's in, this is going to be a run heavy team. Well, it's been the opposite. I mean, they've been passing the
Throwing
ball
it around.
and it's kind of, I mean, the offense has kind of run through the pass game, not the run game in these past 2 games. So something to watch there. And Tim Beck's going to continue to give what the defense gives him. But all in all, I'd give that offensive performance last night a solid B plus. I think there was an opportunity to put 50 on the board against this Florida State defense, in all honesty. And had it been an A performance, that would have been the case. But again, they got the job done. Career nights for Hockman and Thomas, so you can't complain there. Let's talk about defense, Mike, your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Terrell Dawkins. He is he's shaping up to be quite the pass rusher, isn't he?
No, we're getting some guys, man. It's hard to get a sack with a lot of your pass rushes being 3 down. You only got 3 against 5. That's a losing effort most of the time. At least with 4 on 5, only one person is usually going to get double teamed. But I mean, if you just look at him, he's getting so much better. And the defense, I think they're trying. You really wish you could get the rush yards down. Every week, it just seems like the run game's killing them. But they're flying to the ball, and that's at the end of the day, that's all you can ask is fly to the ball, try to limit penalties. But I will say the coverage, even though I know Florida State isn't that great, the coverage looked a little stickier, a little bit. There were some guys, instead of just getting, even though there was a few bombs where there was no one around, I saw 2 to 3 of those, but those are just miscommunications. But, I did see like the one on number 24 in the end zone where the guy leaped over him. That's just a good play by him, but he was there. As long as you're there and you're in good position, I can live with that. It's just when you're not there or you just get beat or something like that, that's when we have a problem. But they're trying to contest. And if you could contest stuff, 50 balls will go your way more.
Yeah, you got to credit them. I think that was either Wilson or Warren Thompson on Florida State with that great catch in the end zone, and credit to them because Malik Dunlap's 6'4", so that's not a easy guy to throw over and catch under. But I think good defensive performance. It's one that I think the main takeaway is they were able to pull out the takeaway bone twice, force 2 turnovers. NC State is always a very successful team, just like any other team in the country when they win the turnover margin. So it was nice to see NC State create a couple turnovers. They hadn't in the last 2 games. So that was one thing that Coach Dorn was really emphatic about, getting done this week as NC State enters its last 3 games of the season. But I think part of the defensive effort last night was aided by Florida State's just really lack of talent and experience on the offensive end. I mean, you've got Chubba Purdy making his first start, I believe, of his
What a
career.
name.
Oh, great name. Great name.
What a name.
And he's a good player. I mean, he was a top 10 rated quarterback in the 2020 class. He's just a baby though. He was playing high school ball last year. He wasn't ready to get the job done. I mean, he completed 15 to 23 passes for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really a solid game for him, but there wasn't a consistent ability to throw the ball downfield. And when Florida State got in that, early deficit, they had to keep throwing the ball. They didn't even have their main backs running most of the time. I know Webb got involved to some degree, but he only finished with 2 yards on 5 attempts. It was Corbin, a guy that wasn't necessarily one of their leading rushers entering this contest, that got a bulk of those carries for Florida State. But I thought it was good. The linebacker core got some confidence again. It was good to see Isaiah Moore have a solid night last night. I think he finishes the highest graded linebacker out of NC State's unit. But I think this is a game where the defense can build some confidence because it's a win. It's a double-digit win. They stopped Florida State to 22 points, but there's also going to be plenty of things on tape to improve upon entering now another ranked contest against a Liberty next week, and one where this defense is probably going to be much more challenged than Florida State.
No, definitely. I'm just seeing it from my perspective. I think they should just keep working and keep putting themselves in a position to make plays. I'll take that over anything. Long as I see the effort, I'm good. I'm really impressed with this team's ability to fight through a lot of adversity and put themselves in a situation to make plays because, I've seen the opposite at times too. So, because you see from Florida State that wasn't too long ago for NC State. Where they're at now was not too far away.
Right.
And that could have been this season.
It very well could have. And, I think that's a conversation that needs to build some momentum if NC State continues to string together some wins here down the stretch. And that you got to give Dave Doran credit for his coaching performance this season. This was a team that by no means was guaranteed to get to 500. In fact, I think most expected them to be below 500 this year. And at this point, they're one win away from guaranteeing at least.
I won't lie. It was me included.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. My season prediction for this team was 5-6, and I don't see NC State losing the last 3 games. I sure hope not. And that would be the only way my prediction comes true. So they're exceeding expectations. They've got 3 winnable opportunities ahead of them, and they could very well finish the season 8-3 with a nice 7-win season in ACC play. But they've still got 3 more games to go, so they got to actually put it together. Before we
Hmm.
wrap up and give our game balls, special teams getting it done again. There wasn't any necessarily there wasn't a kickoff return by Bam Knight for 100 yards. We didn't see that again. And there wasn't any 50-yarders from Chris Dunn, although he made 1 field goal and made all of his PATs as usual, Mr. Consistency. And Gill didn't have a bad game, but the one big play where Florida State maybe was starting to get some momentum was that punt in the third quarter. Florida State fumbles the punt, NC State recovers, ends up turning it into points and gives NC State its largest lead of the night. I think at that point it was 35-9 with about 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. And at that point, it was about all said and done. But yet again, NC State getting it done on special teams, and also credit them for making the proper blocks against a Florida State team that has blocked, I think, like 5 kicks, both on field goals and punts combined this year entering this game. So that was something that they needed to pay attention to detail with. And I know it's something that they don't skimp over. So credit to them. It's another positive that NC State has going for it moving ahead. But Mike, let's give out our game balls because we discussed this before the show started, and you asked me which one I was going to take because I thought there was 2 clear, obvious decisions, and I said I'll just take whichever one you don't, and you responded I'm taking neither. So now I'm very curious to know what you've got up your sleeve, Mr. Rose.
All right, so I could give it to the O line for what I think was a pretty good performance, keeping Hockman clean for the most part, and for Bam Knight's decent night. But I'm going with the secondary, giving up 200 yards passing. Yeah, there were a few bombs. They were chunk plays. You kept everything in front, 2 touchdowns. I can't be mad at 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in there. Can never be mad about that. So I'm giving it to Baker Williams and the DBs, man, the secondary.
Hey, and shout out to Tyler Baker Williams getting his first career pick last night. So good for him. I mean, I know it was kind of in garbage time of the first half. I mean, there was 9
It was a
seconds left,
layup,
but
and he made it. At
hey,
the end of the day, he made the layup.
exactly. Hey, there's something about catching those passes just, and not to knock him, but Jakeem Harris has dropped quite a few this year, and
He'd be an all ACC pick if he caught on.
he'd be the first guy to admit it too. I mean, I was listening to Joe DeForest on the coaches show this week, and he coaches Jakeem Harris closely as the safeties coach, and Jakeem Harris has been working on the jug machine, and he knows it's an issue. So look for him to start converting some of those because he's always clearly in the right place a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm going to give my game ball. It's tough because Bailey Hockman is very deserving of a game ball after his second career night, and he keeps playing like this. He's going to get more opportunities to get more. But last night, I think you got to give it to Thayer Thomas. Career night for him. He's now he's a redshirt junior, so he's been with the program for a while now, and he before last night, his career night was his second career game ever in Carter Finley Stadium against Georgia State. I think he had 9 receptions for like 120 yards or something like that as a freshman. And last night he exceeded all of those: 11 receptions, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught 11 of his 12 targets. And so he was just super efficient. It was great to see him get it done because, he's one of the guys that's just, all these guys are hard workers, but he in particular, and I know him and Emezi have a close friendship where they're just gym rats. Apparently they're just always in the facilities working on their craft. So good for Thayer. I'm giving him the game ball, and he needs to buy Bailey Hockman lunch or something because Bailey Hockman gets an honorable mention, and hell, I'll give Bam Knight an honorable mention just because I'm a
That's
Bam
your
guy.
guy.
That's my guy, so I gotta give him
Bailey,
an
throw the
honorable
ball to
mention.
Carrie Angelon.
He will. Look, Emeka Mezi had his game last week. Thayer Thomas had his game this week. So now it's going to be potentially a third third good game for Hockman. Maybe Hockman finds Angeline after practice one of these days. Say, hey, man, coming after you. You give him
Angelon,
10 targets, he's going to have a monster game. I'm just
two touchdowns
saying.
in the red zone against Liberty for Angelon if he's thrown 6 targets.
And shout out to Mr. Angeline's dad. He messaged me on LinkedIn last week, listens to the show, so hope he's listening now. But he appreciates the kind words about his son and wanted me to pass that along to you, Mike. But
I appreciate
obviously that came after, we see it on the field, and this is our true opinion. So, but anyways, Mike, any other? All right, so we're getting ready for Liberty on Saturday. So stay tuned. Go to wolfpacker.com. Take advantage of that deal. Remember, $75 for 1 year of premium membership, and you get a $75 free credit for Adidas gear that you can use at adidas.com. So head over to the wolfpacker.com. Take advantage of that deal and be looking out this week because we're going to have plenty of coverage about the upcoming matchup with Liberty, which will now be NC State's 5th game this season against a ranked opponent. Didn't think that was a reality. If you looked at the schedule early on before the season started this year, you're maybe thinking like 2 games. But no, fifth opportunity for this Wolfpack team to get a win against a ranked opponent. Liberty is undefeated heading into Carter Finley Stadium, another night game. So potentially the biggest remaining opponent on the schedule. We will see. But anyways, before you tune off, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to us. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can also watch us on YouTube, and please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're watching us. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow Mike at SavageMike90 on Twitter. You can follow me at Justin H. Will. And then, of course, follow our main account at the Wolfpacker. Like us on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on the Wolfpacker.com. And, of course, use that promo code on the Wolfpacker.com. For Mike Rose, this is Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.